Editor-in-Chief is live in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, welcome to the program. August 15, you're with the Editor-in-Chief live with Leicester's Oil, your multi-ingredient omega-3 healthy aging supplement backed by thousands of satisfied customers. Get the benefits of 6 supplements in 1 capsule to support joint, heart and brain health. Take us direct and read the label about Health Auckland. G'day folks, good morning, I'm Duncan, Garner, welcome. We called it, didn't we? The OCR had to be cut, and it has been cut. The economy is way weaker than Adrian Orr had thought, and he had to flip-flop, didn't he? Park the ego, he's had it wrong all year. Some economists have been scathing, saying, how can you be trusted from here? How do you trust him? We'll look at this today. Also today, your mental health. She's been a tough winter. Has your get up and go gone missing? Lance Burdett joins us in our search for our mojo. How do we get it back? And my favourite story in some time, the restaurant on a hill on a remote farm, accessible only by a chopper, horse or quad bike. I love it already. Jump on YouTube, TikTok, leave us a comment. Let us know your thoughts. It's news time. And here's MediaWorks Deputy News Editor. It is Grace Cocker. A very good morning.
The Employers and Manufacturers Association views the cut in the OCR as small but crucial. Head of Advocacy Alan McDonald says the Reserve Bank's decision may mean some businesses hang in just a little longer.
I think it will come as a nice little boost to some of the confidence in the workplace and amongst business owners and business people, because they've been doing it very tough.
It is feared Asian communities are flying under the radar in Auckland. They now make up more than 30% of the city's population. Asian Family Services Kelly Feng says there is hardly any targeted support.
Mental health, very huge gap in terms of helpline service, public health messaging, campaigns targeting our diverse population. There's just nothing there.
Health NZ is scrambling to contact people who have received a food parcel through its services due to the meth-laced lollies in Auckland. Police have launched a massive investigation into the Rinda brand pineapple sweets. Christopher Luxon hopes to make the most of his 2-day trip in Australia. RNZ News reports the PM's first stop is in Sydney today, where he hopes to learn more about private-public infrastructure projects.
And so the reason I've got the 3 infrastructure ministers with me is that we've got an opportunity to meet and see how they go about that process.
NASA's given an update on the 2 US astronauts stuck on the International Space Station. They launched in June and were only meant to be there for 8 days, but it's now looking like 8 months. Options being discussed include using the Starliner, which took them there in the first place, but is facing technical problems. In sport, Bay of Plenty has jumped to the top of the NPC rugby table with its second win in as many matches. Captain Kurt Eklund is not completely satisfied with the 44-31 victory, though, over Counties Manukau on Sky Sport.
A little bit disappointing how they came back at the end of the game there. I think we set a really good standard throughout the start.
Meanwhile, the All Blacks team to face Argentina on Saturday will be named at 11 this morning. That's news and sport.
Thank you, Grace. No gym for you today. You're a bit gingery, eh?
I was tying my hair up in the bathroom before coming in, and I have done some chronic damage to my back all of a sudden.
Oh, no.
Taken some ibuprofen. I'm about to have some overnight oats.
Yep.
The boss has gone to see if there's any Voltaren lurking in the
Prescription
medical
drugs.
rooms.
Yep.
Yeah, big drugs needed.
That's the way to go.
Duncan Garner.
Okay, finally 2 years of high interest rates, and the corner has been turned. After 18 consecutive increases in an earlier stance that we need to stay like this into next year, Adrian Orr has effectively admitted his Reserve Bank misread just how weak the economy really was, and he's immediately cut the OCR, which sets, of course, interest rates. Orr has had to park the ego, suck it up and take one for the team and climb down from his previous position that we wouldn't see cuts until well into next year. In short, he was wrong. He missed it. And some economists say that he got it hopelessly wrong, and it's now a credibility issue. We'll look at that a bit later. But former Kiwi Bank economist, now investment strategist at Forsyth Bar, is Zoe Wallace, and she's with me now. Zoe, g'day. Nice to have you on the program.
Good morning, Duncan. Thanks for having me on.
What's your take on yesterday?
Yeah, look, I think they delivered exactly what was needed. The market was waiting for it. It was just a matter of time. As you say, the economy has been deteriorating for some time and it's looking pretty weak. This will be a bit of relief for households and businesses, but we expect to see further interest rate cuts here.
And that's the point, isn't it? It's not so much the fact that this wouldn't make a difference, but it's the fact that we've turned the corner and we're on this path downwards. It's just a matter of how quickly we go downwards. He'll want to be careful about that, won't he?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the Reserve Bank, cut by 25. They didn't go 50, which some people had been talking about a while ago. Taking a measured approach, it gives them time to assess what happens with the economic data. But our view is that you see 2 more rate cuts before the end of the year. So getting an OCR down to 4.75% in time for Christmas.
How do you get it so wrong? How do you get your take on the economy so wrong in such a short space of time when you've got all the experts around you? And some economists have been really quite scathing, saying it's a credibility issue. What do you say?
Yeah, look, my view is that it was a bit of a misstep back in May. I think the moment they put out that statement and they saw the market reaction to that higher interest rate track, they were probably regretting that they actually left that in there. When you looked at the nuance in some of the commentary in that press conference, they were more very much on the fence about where interest rates were going to go, and that didn't really need to signal a hike, I think, based on what they were seeing. Obviously, we've come a long way since then. And to be fair, the economy has really taken a turn for the worst in the last 6 months. And so, it's great to see that they were very happy to change the view as the data warranted.
Yeah, and it needed to be flexible, didn't you? Because there was that March turn. It turned to sort of in March, but then again in the middle of this year, it's gone again. It's almost like this double dip, hasn't it? And talking to CEOs in different businesses where I go, they were all screaming at me saying, it's got to move. And so the real world was saying it had to happen, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you look at, economic growth over the sort of middle part of this year, we are now expected to be back in a technical recession. And that's going to be the third technical recession. So that's 2 quarters of negative GDP growth that we've seen since the end of 2022. So basically our economy has been flatlining for quite some time.
And if we don't see inflation go as low as they are now predicting, what does that mean? Could you put interest rates back up? I mean, it's a matter of trust now, isn't it? And credibility around the word of the Reserve Bank.
Yeah, look, I think obviously it does remain really data dependent, and this is what you're seeing the RBNZ say, right, is it really depends on how quickly inflation pressure comes down. They're actually expecting it to fall back relatively fast, back to around 2.3% just next quarter. So look, there are some risks around the view that inflation continues to moderate from here, but I would say, they've delivered 125 basis point easing. There's plenty of scope for them to pause and assess, how the economic data is going, actually whether they've delivered enough stimulus. They don't need to go down to 3%, which is what they're expecting to get down to. And so they can take their time and take a bit of a measured approach, I think, on that front. I don't think you see interest rates go back up anytime soon unless something's gone very awry in the economy.
When will New Zealanders notice this, the difference in their interest rates? When will, I suppose, if on short term you can switch and change your rate within 6 months or whatever, but if you're on long term rates, you're stuck on them.
Yeah, well, look, you've already seen interest rates from the bank come down quite materially in the lead up to this decision, and obviously yesterday we saw a few banks move as well. The key thing is that actually, I think New Zealanders to some extent have been anticipating this for some time, and you've actually got about 50% of all the mortgage books on the banks on less than 6 months fixed rates or on floating rates. So actually this should feed through relatively quickly. The unfortunate thing is on the other side of that, you've got about 70% of people with money in deposits or savings that are on 6 months or less. So it'll also be felt on the other side of the economy as well.
It's quite smart, isn't it? New Zealanders have clearly taken the right advice and they've gone for the 6 month interest rates, which means that you can pivot really quickly, which means that this will impact, as you say.
Exactly, and it's a bit of an advantage through the Reserve Bank as well, as they actually get that policy passed through quite quickly. It's very different to when, we were sort of post-GFC, when everyone was on sort of a 5-year or quite long fixed interest rates. And so it took a really long time for interest rates to actually feed through to households and businesses. Yeah,
good to catch up, Zoe. I really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Duncan.
Okay, all the best.
Duncan Garner, live.
That interests me. So half the country's mortgage books are on 6 months or less. So that means that people will pivot really quickly onto perhaps, hopefully, lower rates. Let's hope so. Now, if you're finding it hard to pull yourself up by the bootstraps at the moment, you wouldn't be alone. Life's tough, isn't it? The cost of living crisis, uncertainty at work, increasing crime, and of course winter has challenged the mental health of many Kiwis. We've spoken about this a lot. The key to getting through hard times is personal resilience. But what if you're finding that your get up and go just has got up and gone? Where's it gone to? Lance Burdett reckons that small changes, small things that you can do in your life can make a big difference. And he's here to tell us how it all works. Lance, g'day, mate. Nice to see you.
Duncan, how you going?
Yeah, good. Last time we spoke, and it's just stuck in my mind. I've talked to people about it a lot. You said to me, God, life's become tough just getting through the front door at times. There's the new key, and then there's the new swipe, and then there's a park that they're making you charge for, and all sorts of things. Life's got tougher, isn't it?
Yeah, it has, and it really has got so overwhelming for a lot of people. You really do have to choose the lane that you want to drive in these days. If you want to learn about your phone, then just focus on learning about your phone and nothing else.
It's true. Don't learn about your phone under the lights.
We're trying to take on too much information into our brain.
Every time you come in here, something sticks with me, and then you've just said it there, which we're taking on too much.
You've got to choose your lane and stay within that lane. It's the same as how do you bring joy to your day? Well, look, I could give you 1,001 tips. None of them would probably work. Now, this is the thing about reality of life. We have so many people out there doing wonderful things, but we're getting overwhelmed with well-being and how we should stay. So I always go back to the 6 basics. If you've got something on your mind, you must talk about it with somebody to get it out of your head and share the emotion, etc. You must also read some information about it from validated sites, and then you must write yourself a plan. And from that plan, your plan might be, I want to do something.
Yes.
It can be a big task or a small task. Then you break it down into smaller chunks. And so
It's
then we
the way to go,
focus
isn't it?
on then we focus on the three other things about life. Maslow nailed it. Food, shelter, sleep.
Yeah, good
It
food.
comes back to the basics. And if you're feeling overwhelmed and if you're feeling flat, I mean, there's simple things you can do if you're feeling flat. You can write down one thing a day that makes you smile.
Yeah, or three
We've
things
all
that you're
got
grateful
something.
for, you know?
Yeah, but it's all, don't change your behaviours, change what you do within those behaviours.
Right back to the start, you said get some good information. Find out what it is that's bugging you, and then get validated sites was your
That's exactly
term.
right.
Now, that's
It has
interesting
to
because people go down rabbit holes too, you see.
The first thing you read when you're in a state of stress is stuck in your head forever. It's called an anchoring bias. And so we've got to be careful what we read. So some people in the community, about 2% of the community, have gone down a different trail to everybody else because they read some information when we're in lockdown that resonated. They isolate. Now, the thing about this, you must connect with people. This is the big thing, right?
Yes.
If you don't connect, tachykinin is produced into your brain. Now, tachykinin is a particular neurochemical that causes fear and anxiety.
Right.
We need it. But when we have too much of it, it causes fear and anxiety. And long term, it causes paranoia.
And I wonder if that's the sort of thing that happens when you're stuck in the dark in your room and in front of a computer for too long.
This is it.
You know, you get out and smell the roses. You know, that's a cliche. You can meet people, talk to people.
Well, you don't, so my example, you don't need to smell the roses, but just look at them for a moment as you run by. Right, it's just taking the little wee things that just go, yeah, that was cool. I bird song. How many people actually stop when they wake up in the morning and go, oh, those birds wake me up?
It's
but
a beautiful sound.
just listen to them for a moment and go, oh yeah.
So live in the now is what you say.
It's in the moment, and we can't. So our brains, do you know our attention span is around 15 seconds or less?
See, I thought it was less than that now, yeah.
It's less, right?
Yeah.
But I'm being generous.
Well, you are.
So the whole time we're talking, I'm thinking about what I might say. I'm thinking about, and I've also thought about having a breakfast yet. That's the way
Just
the
do one
brain
thing.
is.
Remember to take your own advice. Do one thing at a time.
Well, I'm trying to, but it's really hard.
Yeah,
but
see-
but it is breaking things down. Now, no two people are the same. So, I got contacted by somebody the other day and they said, surfing's really good for you and it's great for your mental health. I said, well, fantastic, go surfing then. Not for me. I don't like the sea.
Sir John Cuban, love surfing, go surfing. It's his outlet.
So it wasn't him that said it, by the way.
Yeah.
So when I was very unwell, when I was in depression, I got told by a psychologist exercise is good for you. Didn't explain what exercise was, so I started running. Hated running, and I'd be doing 10Ks a day.
You hated doing 10Ks?
Yeah,
This is punishment,
Who
mate.
doesn't?
What are you doing?
But the more is better, right?
Yeah.
And you must explain. Always find out why from validated sites.
It's why walking's crucial. A crucial start to this. Walking.
It is, but it's So anything longer than an hour, and you go into a stress state.
Is that what they say?
That's the truth. That's the body. So you've got to really look at what you read. Only go to university websites and only go to recommended websites.
But there's so much junk out there, lads.
And that's why you have to be
everywhere.
selective.
This is our problem.
Okay,
Social
so
media.
here's a tip on that. Always put, and this is what I do for the work I do, are based on neuroscience. So neuroscience underpins psychology. It's how the brain grabs, stores, processes, and retrieves information.
Yes.
So we now know what happens to the brain. So when you're doing any searches for anything, always put the word neuroscience and then put the year 2024.
Right.
And look where it is. Make sure you get rid of, don't look at the ads. So the first three always have that little term ad.
Sponsored.
Forget those, they're just sponsored. And then come down to what is the year this information came out.
It's a lot to ask of. It's a lot just to filter.
You have to go down your lane and select the lane you want to go in.
How important is work to people? Like, how important is feeling useful, dignified, worthy?
Well, you've got to have it for the rest of your life. So people say, when I retire, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Well, let me tell you, the average life expectancy when you retire is 3 years if you don't have something meaningful.
Wow. So let's say 65, we'll use that as
Yeah,
the
so
term.
that's the, yeah.
Is that right?
So that's pretty much
If you
it.
don't become
You've got to
busy
have
within
something
yourself.
meaningful. So whether it's doing volunteer work, whether it's, playing golf, there's only so much golf you can play in life.
Some guys can play
There's
a
only
lot.
so much. There's only so much fishing you can do, right?
Oh, I don't
You
know about
have to have something meaningful. So even if it's just doing a volunteer for an hour a day or 2 hours a day, something that gets you out of bed and something that you go, I don't want to get out of bed for.
Yeah, I need to
and
be
you
here
get
today.
out of bed.
Yeah,
That's I
volunteer
need to
Cancer
be
Society
there,
or whatever.
and that brings meaning to your life.
Yeah, so a lot of people are working past 65s.
Well, I'm 66.
Yeah, no, you don't look over 50. No,
that's the makeup, mate.
They give you makeup now. So that's the thing, though, isn't it? Being busy,
it is,
but not
it
being
is,
too stressed in your business.
Yeah. But well, we have to be stressed. That's the only way the brain learns. That's the only way it drives new neural pathways. If we have, and it's a bit like if every day's a good day, it just becomes a day. So if we have these little negative events within the day, that makes the next day better.
What about surrounding yourself with good people?
That's really important. We are the sum of 5 people we grew up with. We are the sum of the 5 people around us.
That's what they say.
That's it.
So
you think about it.
So,
you pick up on their
you.
mannerisms. You pick up that. And so in business, if you can join up with others that are ahead of you,
you'll be pulled up.
And they'll drag you up. You want to be there.
But if you are the top of that and then the people below you are dragging you down in your social life or whatever.
You have a look at sports, competitions.
Yeah.
If you are playing against, golf's a classic one, right? If you're playing with good golfers, you'll play better than playing with bad golfers.
Yes.
You meet there.
But if you play with crap golfers who are drinking beer per hole.
That's the wrong thing to do, right? Isn't it?
Right?
It is, absolutely, yeah.
What about relationships? Toxic relationships. People seem to stay in them, and they need to get out of them.
Well, yes
Don't
and
know
no.
how to?
Yes and no. Well, if you're stuck there, then you're going to have to go and get help to do that. Relationships over. I'm lucky. I've been with my wife for 44 years now.
She's a very lucky woman.
I'm a very lucky man. Let me tell you that.
Okay.
She's put up with a lot.
Yeah.
And the simple thing is, so life is like that. We have that. But if it's and I've never had a toxic relationship with her. We've always just had disagreements or
But that's
going
normal.
in different. But that's normal. It's too easy these days to say, "Oh, I'm out of here."
I know it is.
And that's but if it's toxic, absolutely. But then it's difficult because you think of the children around, you think of the others, and you think of, but what about them?
They see everything.
And that's what they see more. So really it's about not so much what's right for you, it's right for everyone.
What about time out? What about things like holidays and getting away from the scene that you're in?
Yeah, you have to do that. I had burnout. That's part of the cause of depression, accumulated stress, and also burnout. So they both went together. Now, burnout comes from a lack of control, a sense of lack of control. Now, one thing about running a business is I've never been busier in my life and never been happier.
But you're in
to
control,
be so busy, because I can say no. I can say, I'm going to have a week off. I can say I'll block that out. I never do.
But you are in control of that.
But I'm in
Previously
control of that.
weren't.
That's it. And so, I'd ask for leave. No, you can't go away. And
I think I've been through that burnout thing where you know you have to get up because you have to get up and you don't have any say in it.
You don't have a say. So if you have a say in things, and this is what business owners need to know, that their staff, give them things to do, give them ownership of. You know where you want to go, get them to take you there. And what that does, that increases their productivity, it increases their motivation, and it helps their well-being.
And I'll tell you, a real perspective for me in the last few weeks has been the Olympics because, we've been through this we can talk it down if we like, this grim time, but having the Olympics, which is all about success and winning and the smiles and the emotions and all that, it's just been great. It's been a real getaway destination,
Absolutely. Well, I've been very lucky to go to the Olympics. So I went to the London Olympics with the New Zealand Police as part of the security team. And watching athletes, and do you know what? But they're no different to, so they go there really hard. They are ultra focused. They enjoy doing it, and once it's all over, they have the joy for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and then they're saying, what about the world's next? So they've always got something ahead of them that drives them and motivates them and gets them out of bed in the morning. And we go back to the very start of this conversation. You have to have something that gets you out of bed. And if you don't have something to get you out of bed, just get out of bed and watch what happens.
What about humour, laughter? Being able to laugh, not just at what you see, but also yourself, because I think it's quite important.
Well, it's really hard to laugh at yourself. I've started doing this on the journey now with myself. I'm more genuine these days than I've ever been in my life.
And why is that, do you think?
Well, first of all, I understand myself. So I've just recently went through a test on ADHD and OCD and a whole lot of other things, right? But on stage, I used to be this put on this persona, and I was never me. I've been getting.
What was that persona? Quite a staunch persona, wasn't it?
Well, it was. I mean, what do you expect from a cop?
Well, that's exactly right. I remember you. Yeah.
Right, and
Mr. Plot.
And, you've interviewed me a few times now.
I have.
And now I've changed. Now I'm Lance. And it's so much easier to develop myself. I'm vulnerable, and I show my vulnerability. Why? Because I'm genuine.
It's human.
I've got unusual facial expressions, I got told once, just fairly recently, and I didn't know I had them. And then I looked at some photos that people had taken of me when I'm on stage. I'm like, crikey. But
now I'm looking at
that's
you.
me. But that's me, right?
Yep,
I'm genuine. And so when I try to improve from feedback and from myself, when who beats you up the worst? You do. Who do you talk to the most in your day? Yourself.
But this is
and all this stuff. So I've learned to, when you develop one persona, your natural self, that comes into your work persona.
You see, the thing to me here, what you're telling me is this involves being honest. You have taken 65 years, 66. How are you? 66.
66, yeah.
Yeah, look brilliant. You've taken 66 years to be honest with yourself, and you're a better person for it.
Yeah. Oh, look, I'm loving life.
Yeah, but life's a journey. It's a long marathon.
Well, I don't know. Sometimes it's a sprint.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the way it is. Yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a sprint.
Yeah.
But it's a journey without a destination. Never think that there's a destination, because it's not like that.
No,
because you know how many times have you said, "When I get this, I will be."
It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work like that.
No.
You get there and you go, well,
Stuff
now
that
what?
up. Exactly. It's not that big panacea that you think it is.
No.
Hey, Lance, always great to have you here. Getting
you,
lots of feedback and a great guest. What a great guest.
Thank you, mate.
I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
appreciate
Good
it.
stuff. Thanks, Lance.
Cheers.
Duncan Garner, live.
Yeah, great guest. All right. Yeah. What do you do? You let me know. Jump on YouTube, TikTok. You're on there now, so let me know what you do to make yourself better as a better person. Right. Let's do 3 questions.
3 questions from the Editor-in-Chief. 1.
At number 1, how many people were affected by the meth-infused lollies handed out by the City Mission in Auckland? Incredible that no one's died, but 400 families were immediately contacted. 8 families affected, and 3 people, including a child and teenager, sought medical attention after initially taking the lollies but spitting them out. The real warning sign will be in the awful taste, which appears to be the lifesaver right now. The police have launched an investigation. This was a drug ring, wasn't it? Makes you wonder where the other bags of lollies are. How many made it through? Where have they ended up? Stay alert, folks. That's probably the best advice.
2.
And number 2, is it appropriate to have a former gun lobbyist now overseeing gun reform in New Zealand? Probably inappropriate, isn't it? That Minister Nicole McKee is an acting MP and a minister in charge of all things guns, but she shouldn't be anywhere near it. She doesn't come to the table with an open mind or independence. She's a former gun lobbyist. How can you be impartial? Perception's reality in politics, and I think it fails the sniff test. I wonder what Mr. Luxon will do about this.
3.
And at number 3 today, remember when Colin Meads played a rugby test with a broken arm? Well, Colin, eat your heart out. A British marathon runner at the Olympics has revealed she ran the race with a broken leg, and she did it all under 3 hours. Rose Harvey can now barely walk and is on crutches, but she ended up 78th in a time of 2 hours and 51 minutes. She realised something was wrong after 10 minutes, but decided she couldn't give up because it's the Olympic Games. So she carried on.
Duncan Garner, live.
Incredible. How many chefs have built their own restaurant from scratch, by hand? Not many, but our next guest did that. This is no ordinary restaurant. The chef's table is on a hilltop at the Blue Duck Station, a remote farm at the edge of the Wanganui National Park. The 10-seater Finer Diner is accessible only by helicopter, horseback, your quad bike, or your mountain bike. To say it's a mission to get there is an understatement, but once you're there, wow. And the man behind this incredible restaurant is Jack Cashmore, a British chef who fell in love with the place when he was travelling here in 2010. He joins me. G'day, mate. Nice to see you.
Hey, good morning, Duncan. How are you doing?
Yeah, really good. I want to go there. I mean, this sounds my cup of tea.
Yeah, it'd be great to have you.
Incredible, eh?
Yeah.
Talk to me about it.
So, yeah, as you just said, we're a small 10-seat, intimate, fine dining restaurant way out in the heart of the Wanganui National Park.
Middle of nowhere.
Yeah, middle of nowhere. Yeah, an hour away from our nearest shop, nearest town. And so what that does, it gives us this beautiful, really unique destination where we can provide a very unique experience.
Because there are restaurants all within 100 metres of where we are now in the city that are going under because people are walking past them, but they're not going in. So they've got plenty of foot traffic, but no one goes in. You've got no foot traffic.
We don't have foot traffic, no.
So how busy are you?
Well, I mean, we opened in January 21, right? Bit of a unique time to open a restaurant.
Yeah, not a great time.
But we I guess were something that people were looking to do. Couldn't go on their island holidays because all the borders were closed.
Yes.
So we've had a great couple of years once we opened.
What a great story.
Yeah. So it was dare I say it, like all that sort of stuff kind of works in our favour. But being a restaurant, it's tough times, and we're not immune to that.
No, but you still are. You have a busy book. I mean, you've got people.
Yeah. No, we're looking good. We've got we opened for our 4th season on September the 13th.
Right, so just ahead of the opening season. Yep.
Yep, that's it. Just a month before we reopen, and things are looking okay.
So who goes? So you've got forward bookings?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, yeah. To get to the station, it's a bit of a commitment.
Yes.
So
you
normally, people normally go for 2 or 3 nights.
Yep.
Lots to do down there, and of course book fairly far in advance.
Do you get really rich people just flying in for the afternoon, having a feed?
Occasionally. But yeah, look, we're not that super exclusive. 95% of our guests are Kiwis, and we always wanted that from the outset, from when we first started planning.
So you got a chopper pad there.
Yep.
Chopper pad.
Yep.
And how often do people come up on the quad bikes and things like that?
Well, part of the experience is that we take you up in our ATVs, in our farm bikes. We do you a 2-hour tour of all the hidden gems and all the best spots of the station, going through all the native forests.
So where are you? So what does the station look like?
So Burdett Station, 7,200 acre sheep and beef station in the heart of the Wanganui National Park.
Mm-hmm.
So we're about an hour outside of Taumaranui.
Yep.
And
you are remote, aren't you?
Yeah.
So where's the Wanganui River compared to where you are?
We're on the Wanganui River,
right.
But we're about halfway down. So we're about halfway between the headwaters in Tongariro and Wanganui itself.
Right, so you could go down there, you could eat with you guys, you could stay with you guys, you can head down the river as well. I've never been down the river. So
like you said, a lot of people will be quite familiar with it because it's the beginning of the Wanganui River trip, one of the great walks.
Yep.
But also there's so much to do on the station.
God, you're a long way from home, aren't you?
Yeah.
Well, tell us your story. You came here in 2010.
That's right. First time. I just came to New Zealand as a backpacker for 6 months, and did my tour of the country, and stopped at the station, stopped at Blue Duck for a couple of nights, and thought, I quite like this. This is a little bit of me.
Wow.
All the things you can't do in the UK as a 19-year-old, like hunting and
is it too hard to do in the UK?
Yeah, it's pretty restricted over there. So hunting and driving quads and just basically
pretty loose here, isn't it?
All the good stuff. All the good stuff.
Pretty loose here, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it certainly used to be. Comparatively.
Yes.
And I thought, yes, good. So I came back and I looked after the horses for 6 months at the station. I was a horse trekking guide.
And then you said to the owners, I want to put a restaurant up there.
Well, not quite. It was about a 10-year gap between that happening.
Yeah.
So, came back a few times, back for another year in 2014, 2015, and then came back again in 2018. And I'd always been a chef, and coming to New Zealand was always just a bit of a break from the hectic career.
So where did you have this idea for the restaurant?
Well, I was looking to set up my own place when I came back in 2018, and was looking at sites up around Auckland or maybe over in Titirangi, somewhere
west. Yep.
Yeah, out west. Beautiful rolling native bush out there. Out of the scenery, but within a sensible business viability distance of a main population.
Yes.
But knowing Dan and Blue Duck being home from home by then, I was like, okay, well, I need to go and just have a chat with Dan and see if he'd like to get involved with this.
Did they think that it was a crazy idea, a ludicrous idea?
Well, he was the one who suggested we did it up there. Did the restaurant up at the highest point on the station.
It makes no sense. You're in COVID, you're in lockdown, going through economic tough times, and you put a restaurant up top of a hill in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, we kind of, in a foolhardy manner, just thought, well, this is so bloody crazy. It's worth giving it a go. So
and you've never looked back. Has it been successful?
Yeah. It's been everything we could have wished for.
What's on the menu?
Well, we try and keep it as farm to table as possible. So we use a variety of foraged ingredients. We grow a lot ourselves. And of course, we try and use the beef and lamb off the station, and where possible, some venison too.
Wow, what a fantastic setup! And you got good bookings from September onwards.
We could do with a few more.
Yeah,
but
what's the website? How do people jump on the website?
thechefstable.co.nz. Go and get a bit more information about our experiences. But we'll tell you a little bit more about what's involved.
Brilliant.
And make a booking.
What's your next plan? What do you want to do? You stay here? You're going to carry on? You're going to
We've got several phases to our project, the Chef's Table, and basically just continue to be a part of Blue Duck Station. We've got a lot going on the conservation front down there. Really exciting times, just continue to knuckle down and grow that place.
And what's hospo like in the UK? Is there anything to go back to, or is it in trouble?
Oh, it's struggling.
Yep.
Struggling the same. I think it's from what I've seen, it seems to be a global trend. It's been a very tough 4 years for everybody,
Really
but
has.
hospitality in particular.
Well, I've sat here and I've talked to different hospitality leaders, and they're just bleeding. You go and look in Auckland, and there are places just hanging on by a thread.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's it.
if they're hanging on at all,
Yeah. No, it's just tough times, and but I think as hospitality industry professionals, we have to sort of be very aware and dialed into the fact that we may have to pivot and think outside the box and what the industry looks like in the coming decades.
Well, what does
because
that mean,
it might
though?
not be the same as we are used
So
to.
what does that mean?
Well, I know I question as to whether going out as and having going into a fine dining restaurant, I question whether that's going to be a special event or a special occasion that people go to in the way that they previously have done,
Or whether we like it more casual.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the casualisation's come through, especially with Uber Eats and places like that. It's just, Uber Eats is the big test, isn't it? It's kept some people alive.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kept a lot of restaurants alive, especially through when they were doing takeaways and stuff.
Do you do takeout? Did you take out? Did you do Uber Eats?
We don't. We don't.
It sounds beautiful what you've done, and all the very best. We'll definitely get down there because I've never been into that Wanganui area, that national park area.
It's quite special. Everywhere in New Zealand looks slightly different. The scenery's slightly different, and we've got our very own little microclimate down there, and it's spectacular.
Yeah, and you've been down the river, obviously.
Yep.
That's neat, isn't it?
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, I must do.
Absolutely.
Okay, you're the man. Thank you so much. Nice to see you.
And yourself. Thank you.
All the very best.
Cheers.
Wow.
It's the Slam Dunk.
It is the Slam Dunk. James says, Duncan, this sounds like a beautiful restaurant. I want to try it. The kai sounds yum. A thumbs up from me. Yeah, wow. That sounds pretty cool. Would you go, Isaac? Would you go? Should we throw some money on a chopper and go from here?
Of course I would.
How good is that?
It sounds amazing.
Does it though? Because it's unique. I think people are after experience now, so that's an experience.
Yeah, 100%. Not to diminish any of that, but I went to Cody Bay Boomrock a couple of weeks ago. It's a beautiful spot. It's like a 40-minute drive out of Auckland. It's at the top of this beautiful hill, and it's a very similar experience. Gourmet food. They take you duck shooting and archery and stuff like that. I feel like it's quite a trend we're seeing around New Zealand now, is those kind of experience locations.
A couple of times I went to Wharikoho, which is in the Wairarapa, and you go over the saddle and the chopper.
Yeah.
That was cool. Those were the
country.
days. Those were the days. Right. So Adrian Orr's cut the OCR when just a few months ago he told us, no, wouldn't be happening. Wouldn't be cut until well into next year. It is such a radical departure on his view from May just a few months ago. That inflation was still high and there was still too much heat in the economy. Turns out now there's bugger all heat in the economy. We could have told him that, and we did. Inflation is fast falling and the economy is so much weaker than he thought. Unemployment alone is expected to be higher than he ever considered. But hang on, where on earth has he been? Who's he listening to? Who's he relying on to give him his data? It means he's unnecessarily kept interest rates far too high, and he's been needlessly choking us and the businesses around us right around the country. The casualties are lining up and have been all winter. And where's the accountability of getting it so wrong? There's no such thing, folks. Folks, this shit matters. Because people have gone to the wall, and I've been loud and clear in my view for months that in the real world, at street level, the pain's been real, the struggle is real. And I don't think Orr and his bunch of advisors saw it. How did they miss it? How did they miss this? They paid handsomely to do it. This is what we pay them for. So handsomely to see. But they missed the pain, and how did they not see what I was seeing every day? They engineered a deep recession in New Zealand where they needed to back off much earlier. I first raised this on this podcast a month ago when, after interviewing a bunch of New Zealand CEOs, they all said to me, Orr was out of touch with the real economy. And one in particular said to me, and it really stood out, he said to me that he thought Orr was relying on data that was old and not as up-to-date as it should be. And so that's proven to be the case. Economists like Brad Olsen, who's a regular on this program, have been brutal in their view of Orr. Totally brutal. He says it's a complete U-turn from the Reserve Bank and interest rates will now likely be at about 3.5% at the end of next year. Olsen says the Reserve Bank has probably made the right call and starting to cut the OCR, but in doing so it implies that its view of the economy was hopelessly wrong. Flip-flopping from a raise and no interest rate cuts until August 25 to then suddenly cutting in August 24 raises massive questions about the bank's reading of the economy and its forecast, and frankly makes it hard to trust its judgment, says Olsen. Olsen says it was clearly wrong about the economy back then in May, but the yo-yoing in views now means that no one can be quite sure what's next. And the lack of accountability is galling, he says. He says he's now no longer sure what to believe from the Reserve Bank, and he's lost trust in what they say because it might not be what they do. It's a brutal blow, isn't it, from Olsen? He's effectively said they're a bunch of flakes whose credibility is shot. Now, if they're in charge of an under-9 soccer team, then it may not entirely matter, but they run the economy, and they're in charge of the crucial settings here that affect all of us, and they remain on their jobs, and we have no ability to turf them out. It's an epic fail on something so fundamentally important. Orr should have at least offered his resignation yesterday, and I think it would have been accepted as well.
Duncan Garner, live.
Okay, what's the chance of a late night edition of Slam Dunk? Friday is open, LOL. Slam Dunk on a Friday. Well, I'll give you Slam Dunk. A Friday night edition. I don't know about that. We'll look. Friday night? We're too busy, aren't we? That is us. Thank you for tuning in to Duncan Garner, Editor-in-Chief Live with Leicester's Oil, the premium New Zealand-made fish oil supplement backed by a study. Support joint, heart and brain health. Use the code Duncan. Now, if you use the code Duncan, you'll get 10% off immediately, okay? It's abouthealth.co.nz. Take as directed. Read the label. About Health Auckland. That's us, folks. God, that restaurant, it's on my mind now, isn't it? We could get a chopper. MediaWorks could pay for this. We'll have a chat to Leon. We'll jump on a chopper and we head to Blue Duck. I can't see it being a problem. This will be available as a podcast on Rover shortly and wherever you get your podcast. Thank you for your support and feedback. I'm Duncan at rover.nz. To my team, Isaac, Miranda, Forrester, Zarina. Thanks, guys. Do it again tomorrow. Remember, life's no dress rehearsal. This is it. No curtain raiser. You're living it. So get out and enjoy it. Take care, folks.
That was Duncan Garner, Editor-in-Chief Live. Missed something on the live stream? Text Duncan to 3598 to listen back on the podcast. Want to get in touch? Call 0800 863 293.